She asked us, do you want to know what a student feels like when you ask them to read aloud? Try reading this for me. And then she shows us a picture with a text that is written in a different spelling, and we were supposed to read it all out and find out what it was about. Hi, I'm Yazzy, and recently I had the opportunity to attend a webinar by Professor Penny Orr. If you're familiar with language teaching bibliography, you may already know that Penny Orr is one of the teachers in the field. In this webinar, she was very kind to share with us her top 30 teaching tips for teaching English, and in this video, I want to share with you the ones that I found the most interesting. One of the tips that she shared with us was to keep online lessons short. We know that online education is different from face-to-face education, so we shouldn't aim to have very long online sessions because they require much more concentration than face-to-face classes. So it's important to focus our attention in only 90-minute sessions, no more than 90 minutes, and that's for adults. For kids, they should last way less than that. She also talked about homework. If we assign homework to our students and we say so at the end of the lesson, we are giving the idea that homework is not that important. We should give them some time to ask questions about it. So it's better not to say it at the very end of our lessons. If we teach online through Zoom or Google Meet, we find ourselves mostly waiting for students to speak. But what if their microphones don't work? What if their cameras don't work? And she suggested that we could make a better use of the chat box. Instead of asking students to just fill out exercises with the correct tense of a verb, for example, we could also create exercises that are more meaningful and more personal to them. We could just start one sentence and have them complete the rest of the sentence with their own thoughts or their own lives, etc. This will have them more engaged in the class. Also, in online lessons, it's a good idea to have every student participating at the same time. Yeah, I know this might seem impossible, but it's actually achievable. If you ask one student or students to answer only one question, you may only receive one answer. But if you ask students to brainstorm and write their answers in the chat box, or they could also use a virtual blackboard, or you could simply ask them to perform total physical response activities. For example, stand up when I say something, or raise your hands, or bring an object, or show me something in your house. Any activity that requires everyone to do some task at the same time. If you do want to ask one question to your students, you may find that it's usually the same student who wants to answer. To avoid this, you could allow some wait time. If you ask a question, you ask students to raise their hands in Zoom or write their names in the chat box, the ones who want to participate. And then after 5 have written their names, then you can choose who is going to answer. And in that way, you avoid the same student giving you the answers all the time. Now, let's talk about using a text in the class. We know that we usually pre-teach vocabulary before a listening or before a text. But it was very interesting for me to find out that I shouldn't feel guilty if I don't do it. Evidence has been found that pre-teaching vocabulary does not necessarily improve students' comprehension of the listening or the text. I asked Penny Orr about this because I found it very interesting, and she was very kind to share with me a study carried out in 2006 about the uselessness of pre-teaching vocabulary in a listening text. It's a very interesting study, and if you want to deep dive into it, I will leave all the information in the description of this video. Now that we are talking about using texts in class, let me share with you this exercise that she carried out in the webinar. She asked us, do you want to know what a student feels like when you ask them to read aloud? Try reading this for me. And then she shows us a picture with a text that is written in a different spelling, and we were supposed to read it all out and find out what it was about. It actually took me a while to realize that there was someone watching a movie, etc. It's hard. So the point is that if we ask our students to read aloud, they may find themselves putting much more effort into decoding the spelling than vocabulary, grammar, or comprehension. So be careful about this. Teacher talking time. We know it should be kept minimal, but we also know how hard it is. And the point is that teacher talking time can provide good input, but it can be counterproductive if students are not well engaged. Now, there have been many people talking about teaching talking acts instead, and there's a very interesting conversation going on in the topic. So if you want me to make a video about it, just let me know and I will be happy to share with you what I've heard about this. Using L1 in the classroom. Some of us freak out when it happens. Some of us use it. Some of us are completely for it, and some of us are totally against it. And it happens, and we know we have to deal with it. Penny Orr says, use it, but keep it minimal. If you really find yourself in the need to use L1, use it, but please keep it minimal, just for a few words, and that's it. Finally, she acknowledged that many of these tips may not work for all of us. So if these tips don't work for you, don't use them. Just trust your gut. So, what do you think? As we know, there's nothing about teaching that is set in stone. As I mentioned earlier, your teaching style, your students, and your contexts make your practice unique. So please be a part of the conversation and share your thoughts with me in the comment section below. I would love to know what you have to say about these tips, and if you have other tips that other teachers like me can learn from, please share them too. And as always, if you found this information useful, consider subscribing, and I will make sure to make more videos like this so that you can make more informed decisions in your lessons. Thank you for listening.